it was a leap of faith. I didn't really know what I was getting into. The football here is very, very well structured and developed. I think most importantly, you just have to be mentally strong. Realize that it's not an easy route that you have to take. Worked with a few athletes in the past year and a half, and it gives me a lot of happiness to see players go into a route and be confident and have all the information that I wish I had. Having first-hand knowledge in the situation is extremely important. India is a big market, and everyone
Yeah.
wants to approach the market.
So, hello everyone. Welcome to Atawaris Speaks Football episode 3, where we'll be having Aryaman Trehan with us. And this initiative is basically for footballers, for young footballers who have just started on in football. But today we have a special guest. He's a footballer and he is the founder of Aperio Sports too. And we'll be discussing everything related to it. So, starting off, Aryaman, first of all, welcome here
Thank you so
in this
much.
show. The first question is, how did you start your journey in professional football? Means what exactly was the thought behind it?
So my journey with football started at a very young age. I think like a lot of players, I just fell in love with the sport at the age of 10, 11, and that's when I realized that I wanted to take it up more seriously. At the age of 13, and I was in Delhi back then. I was in Vasant Valley School. At the age of 13, my coach asked me to go for trials for the Delhi national team, for the state team. So that's
Hmm.
why I went, and that was my first step to looking at football more seriously. Where I got picked for the under 13 team of Delhi, and from there on, I started playing for the under 14 Delhi, under 15, and under 17. I played for them for 4 consecutive years, and that's when I started going to academies. I played with BBFS. I played with clubs in Delhi, and that's when I saw that okay, I want to make a career out of this. So that's where the journey started, and I took it on more seriously, of course, after I finished my 12th grade in school.
So speaking about the Portugal thing, means you have been playing in Portugal for about 6 years.
Yes.
So you have been to clubs like Estoril Praia B, then Portuguese League, in the Portuguese League Taca de Portugal. So um, tell us a bit about that and the differences between Indian football and the football in Portugal.
So, like I said, after I finished my 12th standard, I wanted to pursue football more seriously. Indian football was still developing back then. It was in 2016. So I saw the options of going outside of India. I had two
Hmm.
options. One was to go to US as a student athlete at universities. I'd got scholarships over there, and the second one was Portugal, which is the option I picked.
Hmm.
It was a leap of faith. I didn't really know what I was getting into, but I knew I had an opportunity to come train here and possibly play with the club, so I took it. The football here is very, very well structured and developed. Is one thing I
Hmm.
would say. Portugal is a small country, and they have the club that I first went to was Turil Praia. They're a first division club, so I was playing with their B
Hmm.
team. So the
Yeah.
football was very structured from in that club itself, from the under eights to the under 23s, and then the first team. There was always a progression. So if you're performing well, you know that you have this pathway lined for you, and you will be able to do that. Other than
Hmm.
that, even outside of the club in Portugal in general, they have the division structure very straightforward. They have the first three divisions, for example, and then each division goes into different districts. For example,
Hmm.
states in India would have a different division where then they have further divisions below that. So each
Yeah.
player has an understanding that I am playing here, and my next level is to go to this division, then this division, and there's a clear structure. I think that really helps a player give an understanding of how to build their career and gives them an understanding of where they need to go next, which is I think a little bit lacking in India as of now.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking about, you just mentioned that it was a leap of faith going to
Mhm.
Portugal. So it's often like in the lower divisions, mostly there are tighter budgets and resources. So how did you cope up with those kind of challenges? Means it you went to Portugal, it was a leap of faith. So how did you manage?
So, like I said, I just went with the idea of I want to give it everything for 1 year basically. I want to try my luck at football. And the moment I
Hmm.
reached Portugal, of course, it was a challenge. I couldn't even speak the language, for example, so it was hard to communicate with players, with people in general.
Hmm.
So the only thing that I had was football. So I was just playing, doing my best, and just hoping for an opportunity to come through it. And luckily it did. So I did find a club that I could play with. It was at a lower division to begin with, but it gave me some stability. in the sense like the club supported me a little bit and gave me more opportunities to showcase myself in the official league, which then took me forward to other clubs. So that leap of faith was just having faith in like the the process and trusting the system in Portugal.
Yeah. So you were playing in the fourth division of Portugal. So what were the biggest challenges, and means how did you overcome them?
I think one of the biggest challenges when I first came into Portugal was definitely adapting to the game style over here. It took me some time.
Yeah.
Of course, I've been playing a lot in India, but the system in Portugal, because like I said, I got into a team where they had players playing from the under 8 to under 23 who are playing in the same setup of that club. They have a
Yeah.
structure of playing. So just coming in as a foreign player, not speaking the language, not being able to gel well with the players, it took me time to break in. For my first season in Portugal, I was mostly sitting on the bench. I would get
Yeah.
some time here and there. But then, as in when I understood the game a little bit, understood what they need from a player, and more importantly, understanding where I can perform as a player, I learned that I was an attacking midfielder when I first came into Portugal, playing as an 8 or a 10. But as I learned the
Mm.
game over here, I developed into like a right back or a wing back, and I saw that I could benefit more and I could help a team more in that position. So learning more about the team, learning more about myself as a player in the first year, that's what helped me develop and make it easier in Portugal.
And as you mentioned, the system here was quite difficult.
Hmm.
So, considering there are a lot of thoughts and like news coming in Twitter when India lost out in the AFC Asian Cup recently, that Indian players cannot match the physicality of
Hmm.
especially the European and the Middle Eastern players. So, any thoughts about that? Means, is there a change in like physicality between the Indian players and Portuguese players or the European players?
I think the main difference here is not I would not put it down to physicality. I would put it down to minutes played, because as you know in
Yeah,
India, at even at the first division, how long does the ISL run? 6 months, 7 months. Out here,
yeah,
even a fifth division league runs for 10 months of the year. That means that a player gets to play 30 to 40 games in a year, and
yeah,
that starts from the age of 13 or 14 when they start playing 11-a-side games. So if you
yeah,
accumulate that of them playing that many games each season, for 7, 8, 9 years, whatever, that helps them firstly get a better understanding of the game, of course, get a better physicality, and just a better sense of what to do with the ball when you have it in that position. Is just, I think that is the main difference that varies between Indian players and players playing abroad, is that they have so many more minutes that they have played,
Hmm.
that their relationship with the game is just a little bit more advanced.
So, Trehan, you have moved from club to club. You
Mhm.
have played for 4 to 5 clubs. So, any particular obstacles you face? Like the environment must be unique for each the club, or was it the same? And how did you adapt if it was different kind of thing?
I think the biggest challenge over here was the uncertainty, because as and when I would finish a season, I would be working with a few agents here and then. They would be looking out for opportunities for me, and I would just have to wait, and sign up, just wait for to hear something from them, and then they would tell me, okay, you are going here, and I would go for my first session, not knowing where I'm going to stay, or anyone in that place. So I was staying in Lisbon, which is the capital
Yeah,
of Portugal first, and then I moved to down south in a place called Evora. And when I moved there, it was I did not know anything that was happening. I was just told that, okay, a club wants to see you there, and you can go and train with them. So just you have to just be with a very open mind, because you're going to meet players from different nationalities, different ideas, but you all at the end have the same goal. So being
yeah,
completely open to anything that comes my way, I think helped me a little bit over there. But it was an obstacle of always being ready for not knowing what's coming next. I had players who were playing and would be asked to leave the next day, or players coming in the next day. So you're fighting for your position every day, basically.
yeah. So, now shifting a focus towards like your family must have supported you a lot, considering you moved from India to Portugal. So, how has been their support in your footballing journey, financially as
Mhm.
well as mentally too?
I think my family was extremely supportive, both my mother and my father. Like I said, when I made this decision of coming to Portugal to play football, I had an option to go to the US as well. which was definitely
Yeah.
a safer option because I was going to university. I was going to
Hmm.
study and play over there. I was getting a scholarship as well. And it was a little bit hard for my parents to understand why you're leaving such a good opportunity to go to something which gives you nothing, like in certain. But
Yeah.
I was able to explain to them, and I told them that this is something that I want to do, and they were being able to support it. And I asked them for basically give me like certain number of months to be able to prove myself, and after that I will be able to take care of myself. And that is what they did. Even financially, they supported me on my first move into Portugal. And after that, of course, I had to take it on by myself. And they were supportive in the terms of, okay, we're here to support you, and you can make your decisions, but you have to realize that you have you have chosen this path, and you have to
Hmm.
make it by yourself. My parents aren't into football, so it's not like much
Hmm.
support that they could give me in terms of this is what you should do or that is what you should do. So I said, we're here to support you at the back, but you're going to have to figure it out by yourself once you are there.
Yeah. So, and how was your experience playing in Portugal? Like, how did it influence your skills and mindset? Because it's completely different compared to what here it's in India. There's much more competition compared to what here is in India. So, what did you experience, and what was your experience with the same?
So the game here is definitely much quicker. I,
Hmm.
I I realized that I came straight into a very high level of football, which I was
Hmm.
not expecting. It definitely helped me, but so like I said, to adapt really quickly to the style of play that they have here. The players that currently that I was playing with were players who had played at really good levels. Played higher divisions and come down, or players who are aiming to reach as high as they can in their career. So I was put in
Hmm.
that, and I think the best thing that I did at that moment was learning from them. I realized that there's a slight gap between me and where I want to go right now, and I just took my
Hmm.
time to be able to learn from the players that I had around me, and the many players who I started playing in the first who are playing in like first division clubs right now in Portugal, in Spain, even one in England actually. So I think taking that time to learn from them was something that I did really well, and it's benefited me through my journey.
Yeah, and since you mentioned when you went to Portugal, means the system was
Mhm.
kind of different compared to what it is in India. So
Yes.
there must have been adversities such as injuries or tough losses, kind of thing. Your performance must have been not kind of good. So at that moment, how did you maintain motivation and that spirit inside you that I have to keep on going here?
There obviously, I mean, everyone has those times in their life, where you have tough phases or you have injuries and
Yeah,
whatnot. I firstly, of course, I had my parents who were always, like I said, supporting on the back end, so I could always talk to them and be with them in whatever sense I needed. Other than that, I had a close group of friends over here who were also going through the same thing at that point. We're all trying to build our career here. So being around them helped me as well. But I think most importantly, you just have to be mentally strong. Realize that it's not an easy route that you have to take. And you just have to know that if it's an injury, it's going to pass. If it's a loss or a bad moment or a bad phase of performance, it's going to pass.
yeah,
So just being
exactly.
able to go through it, bear with it, and coming out to the other side. I did that once, and then it gives you strength to do it the next time and the next time.
Yeah. And so you have been a player, and then you founded a company named as Aperio Sports.
Mhm.
So, what was the motive behind it? Like, what's the mission and vision behind Aperio Sports? What is Aperio Sports, in fact, in general?
So, like I told you, my journey in Portugal has been going on for 7 years, and
Hmm.
like I said, it was a leap of faith for me. I didn't have much guidance when I came to Portugal. I didn't have much direction. There's a lot of
Yeah,
things that a player, especially a foreign player, needs to know when they come into a foreign country to play football. Be it how you should prepare, the documentations, the legal information, and just
hmm,
support in general, like you said, is an important part. So I realized that there's a lack for that in players, and every time that I would go back in India, I would always get questioned as to how did you go there, what can we do
yeah,
to go there as well from footballers. So I realized that I would like to help the players who want to do this, and
hmm,
try to provide proper systematic guidance to them. So last year in 2023 is when we started Aperio Sports, and our mission is basically to help athletes, especially footballers, take their career to the next level, be it in Europe through the process that I've done, or be it in universities in the US as a student athlete. Our mission
Yeah.
is basically to help them discover the various pathways that are available to them, and reveal the ways that they can go into these pathways, and then just help them grow and develop their career. So we've worked with a few athletes in the past year and a half, and it gives me a lot of happiness to see players go into a route and be confident and have all the information that I wish I had when I first came into Portugal. As you know,
Yeah.
football is time is really important in football. You
Hmm.
can't waste much time. You have to every year matters, every month matters. So knowing exactly what you need to do, when you need to do, is something that we really want all players to have in front of them, and to give them the right and truthful information. There's a lot of information here that might sound good to a player but might not be beneficial to them. So
Yeah.
if a player is not going to make it somewhere, or if you feel that it's not beneficial for him to be in this current situation right now, we would inform them about that. We tell them, okay, you need to do this right now, and then maybe next
Hmm.
year come here and try. So that is the
Yeah.
objective, just to provide full support and guidance to players to take their careers to the next level.
And in Aperio Sports, I was going through the PDF you sent to me, and while I was
Yes.
reading it, I found out that there were two primary pathways. So, can you explain a bit
Mhm.
about that? One is for US, and other one is for Europe. So, can you give highlight the bit?
Definitely. So, like I said before, the two pathways that I was stuck with as well in 2016 when I graduated are the two main pathways. One pathway being the US. So, that is a pathway for student athletes. These are players
Hmm.
who have, or students who have finished their high school and want to go ahead and pursue higher education and take their football career alongside with them. So, the
Yeah.
US provides a great setup for that at universities, where education and sports goes hand in hand. So we have in the United States have NCAA Division One, Division Two, Division Three, and the NAIA, which is different divisions of football, or soccer as they call it there, where players can
Hmm.
get enrolled and receive scholarships as well. So we work very closely with a lot of coaches over there, where we directly connect player and coaches together. So if a player comes to us, we build a profile for them, and we showcase it to the various coaches that we have in our network. And if any of the coaches likes that profile, which normally do because different coaches require different things at different points, then we
Yeah.
connect the player and coach directly. So we're trying to take the middleman out of it and just give all the power to the player and to the coach to take it on by themselves. We recently helped a player. His name is Suryansh, and he was in modern school Barakhamba in New Delhi. We helped him
Hmm.
receive a 100% scholarship with a Division Three school in the United States. So he's going to be going in September, and it's not just about finding the university in this pathway. It's about seeing what fits best for the player. For example,
Hmm.
he really wanted scholarship, so we had to focus on schools that can provide that. He wanted to play outside of the university, so the coach found him a local club that he can play with as well. And he wanted to study something specific, which he will get at the university. So these small, small things is what we try putting together, and then finding a perfect university program for a student. So that is the US university pathway. And
Hmm.
the second pathway is Europe, the route that I took, which is basically in Portugal and in Spain. So we've tied up with an academy mainly in Portugal, where we are working with a third division club, which is a professional setup. So any player that comes here comes into the academy with us, and we help them train and develop as a player, and then provide them opportunities to play in the Portuguese league. So the objective again, we say it's like an educational football setup where players come, they develop their level of football, and then we officially register them into the Portuguese league, and then find them opportunities to play football in Portugal.
And what are the means? There must be some kind of fees for both the pathways, some fees kind of thing. So, what exactly it is, and how much is it?
So the fee for the US university structure varies depending on the university and the scholarship that the player can get. That
Hmm.
obviously depends on how much the coach likes the player and what kind of university that they go to. That is, of course, the university fee.
Yeah.
For the players, we work personally on their profile building, and so we work with academic counselors as well. Since you're going as a student athlete, you have to build your academic profile and your sports profile. So we work with that, and depending on the number of colleges that you want to apply to or where you want to apply, we create like a special package for different players or different students, and we say that okay, this is what we're doing for you, and this is what we can offer. So it varies a lot from player to player in the US. For the Europe, it's more of a fixed structure where we have a system in place for players who want to come. Usually, we like players to come for 10 months, which is the entire season, but we also encourage
Mm.
players to come for 1 month, 3 months, 2 months, 6 months, whatever they prefer. Over here, the price normally of our program here would vary between 1,000 to 1,600 euros, where we provide players with food,
Yeah.
accommodation, training, and most importantly, opportunities for trials with other clubs. So what we've really tried to do in Portugal is and I'm working very closely with Elvis Koish, who was a professional footballer in India and a professional coach.
Mm.
So he knows India very well, and he knows what Indian players can provide. And our objective of providing players an opportunity to come into Portugal was give them something sustainable, something that they can use to grow, and then take that as a stepping stone to build their career forward. We work at like it's important to understand that you have to be realistic in these situations where no player is going to come and go into the second division or third division of Portugal and play football over there. So we tell
Yeah.
that to players and we say that we are going to provide you the opportunity to get into the system, be it a fourth division or fifth division, where you showcase your talent. And then we
Yeah.
will provide you support from the back to help you then go to the next level and the next level.
So during this, like creating giving the players the experience and the opportunity, there might be some
Mhm.
challenges when you have started a period, and you still might be having some challenges. So what are the key challenges that you have faced till now in this journey of Aperio Sports?
I think one of the biggest challenges that I faced was providing players with the right support at the right
Mm-hmm.
time. So, for example, there were times when players would come in over here and they would not know exactly what to do and when to do. So a
Mm.
lot of Indians who would come here, and like I said, it's a major culture shock, like it was for
Yeah.
me. So learning, and something that I learned actually just this year as I was in Portugal, is that each player is different. I was approaching each situation as it was for me. Saying, okay, I
Yeah.
this is how I was in this situation, and this is how I should help this player. But I learned that each player approaches each situation differently. So sitting with the player, understanding, okay, this is how this player is seeing this obstacle, and then providing support in that sense. So,
Mm.
so personal guidance for each player. I think that's something that was a task for me to learn and to provide, which is something that I've really worked and developed on this year. And I think it's something that's very important that players have someone
Mm.
that they can go back to and say like, okay, I have this person to go to talk to, or if I have any doubts, if I have any queries, or if I just need someone to have a conversation with. So
Yeah.
that is something was obstacle for me, and I learned how to help players in that sense this year.
And considering you yourself are a footballer, so how do you manage your time between both these things, like being a footballer and then managing Aperio Sports
It
too?
was it was actually very interesting because when I my previous years in Portugal, I was always football, football, football. Like I would train in the morning, rest,
Yeah.
eat well, sleep, train in the evening. Just very focused on football. And
Mm.
since I started Aperio Sports, of course, I started getting into a lot of work. It didn't take away from the training. I would still train, but then I would work in the day and then train in the evening as well. And I
Yeah.
saw and I always imagined that to be very tiring, and it does get tiring on some days. But I realized that it takes my mind off football a little bit, which can be good sometimes because if you're constantly thinking about football, constantly thinking about it, it gets a bit too much sometimes. So I
Yeah.
actually enjoy it, and maybe because I enjoy this work so much, so it's different for me. But I really enjoy being able to play and then doing this work, working with players, and then being able to play as well. It gives me, I think, a little bit of taking away the mind from playing football, but still being involved in football as I always want to be. So I find it really comfortable and easy to manage because it's something I really enjoy doing.
So Fran, you have been a footballer, right? And you have that first-hand knowledge and experience in the football industry. So,
Mhm.
how do you plan to benefit its operation in the future of Aperio Sports and the footballers it represents?
Like you said, having first-hand knowledge in the situation is extremely important. to
Yeah.
understand what the players are going through and what they need to do at what points. So the players who come into Portugal, for example, I can first-handly tell them that, at certain points you have to push a little more. At certain points you have to be a little bit more patient. At certain
Yeah.
times the coach is doing something because he can only, for example, you have a restriction on foreign players. A player might not
Hmm.
know that and be like, oh, why am I not playing? So you have to explain that, there's only these many players who can play right now. So be patient, or you need to push harder. So those small things, being able to tell players through my experience really helps. And then also when I'm speaking to coaches, for example, in the US, to
Hmm.
understand exactly what they're looking for in a player, to understand, since I've played football, anyone who knows football or plays football understands what a coach wants and what a player can provide. And being
Yeah.
able to look at both those sides, it's easy for me to say, okay, this player and this coach would be a good fit. So that experience of my football career, I can really use to be able to place players in the right place.
Yeah. And talking about the potential collaborations and partnership with academies, clubs, organizations, and there might be non-profit organizations also like IKF, India Khelo Football. So, what criteria do you consider while forming these alliances?
I think IKF and I have quite the similar criteria where we wanted to collaborate with someone who was
Yeah.
actually doing good, honest work in football. I think
Yeah.
IKF would say the same thing, that they have various universities, or sorry, academies in Europe that would have wanted to tie up with them, as we did as well. We had lots of academies coming up because India is a big market and everyone
Yeah.
wants to approach the market. So we are very picky on who we work with, and I know even IKF is very picky on who they work with. So it was just
Hmm.
a match that worked really perfectly. We had a conversation once or twice, and it just we completely aligned in what we want to do in Indian football. I know they are more focused on building Indian football in India, and we are
Yeah.
more focused on providing opportunities outside of India. So putting those two together really worked well for us.
Hmm.
Similar with the academies that we have, which is EFAP, which is the International Football Academy in Portugal,
Yeah.
and Winning Soccer Skills in Spain. These academies also have the same idea that we are working with, again, to provide honest and true opportunities and pathways to players. That was something really good with IKF that we did, and we actually did a workshop with them in September for the academies in Portugal and Spain, where players are going to get scholarships. So we have a player coming here in March in Portugal on a
Hmm.
scholarship, and going in either March or April in Spain as well on a scholarship. So these kind
Yeah.
of opportunities that we can provide to players through collaboration with IKF is what we really wanted to do, and that is the
Yeah.
main idea of these collaborations.
And considering there might be different kind of players, like you have diverse backgrounds in Aperio Sports. So, how do you foster a sense of community and support among the players? Like you mentioned, you had that language barrier. So, like, how do you get the players out of it and help them and support them?
So, since I'm working a lot in Portugal and I'm at the academy over here, there we have around 15 players here from different nationalities.
Yeah.
Thankfully, most of them speak English, so that language barrier stops between them. But outside for Portuguese players, it's different. So, I think being there for them but not being there for them from the back, just getting them together is what really helps. So just doing like small exercises with them, or team building work, like going for something other than football, going for like a tennis game or playing some different sports, or going for
Yeah.
Portuguese classes, for example. We ask players to go for Portuguese classes to help get into
Yeah.
things with other Portuguese players as well. So I think just building a community, and you have to be very close to the players for that. So
Hmm.
get everyone together and build a community slowly is the most important thing, where we have one player looking out for the other instead of just competing with the other. So that is something that
Yeah.
we really focus on over here, where we want someone to come into a safe and growing environment, rather than an environment where you just feel like you are competing against everyone else.
And this is the last one for Aperio Sports. So, what are your upcoming projects or initiatives for Aperio Sports, and anything you want to share about what lies in the future for Aperio Sports?
Mhm. So we have, of course, like have told you about our programs in Europe. So we have lots of development in terms of the program itself for what we are doing in Portugal for players. Anyone who is interested in coming over here, we have lots of teams that we have collaborated with, which opens a lot of opportunities for players. So any player who does come into into the academy. We can send them out to a lot of clubs that we have tied up with recently, which is a great opportunity. Other than
Hmm.
that, I think one of the biggest things that we are working on is an IB camp for US universities in India. So we have spoken with a
Oh,
lot of coaches who want to come into India and scout players directly. The main objective for these coaches in US is that they can see a video of the players, but they always question like how much can you trust a video.
yeah, exactly.
Seeing a
Hmm.
player firsthand is different than seeing them. So if we can bring the coaches into India and have a camp, and we plan to do that hopefully in this summer, to have first-hand scouting happen, which would be probably a first of its kind camp in India, is something that
Hmm.
we are working on and something that we think will be very successful, because there are lots of players who would like this opportunity of taking this career forward in the US with their education. So that is something which is in the works, and we will definitely share more information about it on our social media once we have more details. But it is a great opportunity, I think, for Indian footballers, and hopefully it will work well.
That's a great initiative. And any testimonials from your players that when you get, you feel kind of happy that something is working out for
Mhm.
someone who is in need of something.
Yes. So I would.
So yeah.
We definitely have, of course, the players that we worked with. I'm still very closely connected with, especially for example, Suryansh was doing in September. We finished his
Hmm.
whole application, everything, but I was just on a call with him yesterday, asking him how he's doing, what's happening, what's his training, this, that, and the other.
Hmm.
So I would definitely ask them to maybe speak a little bit about us and share their experience and their information. I think it'd be better. It's nicer to hear from them rather than me telling you about it. So I will
Yeah.
definitely have them speak about it and give you some information as to what their experience has been with the various sports.
So now shifting the focus towards like OCI and POI kind of the PIO kind of things, persons of India origin and overseas citizen of India. So considering you have been playing for in Portugal for around 6 to 7 years, so you have a citizenship of India or Portugal? It's out of
Currently, I
curiosity.
still have an Indian citizenship, but I'm in the
Hmm.
process of possibly applying for Portuguese citizenship.
So, considering the Indian rule that does not allow the Indian like players who have foreign citizenship to play in India, so do you have any words on that about that rule the Indian government has put in?
I think I do have a lot to say about that rule, but the first thing that I would say is just the rule of India not allowing dual citizenship is something
Yeah,
that is something that I don't completely understand, but that is a different topic altogether.
yeah,
Talking about OCI players and players who are outside of India, I think the Indian football can benefit so much from letting these players play and coming into
exactly.
India and providing the the experience that they've had and
Hmm.
the time that they've had with football. It is something that I think would benefit everyone. I don't think there's anyone who would not benefit from this, from OCI players, for
Hmm.
example, being able to play in the Indian team or counting as Indian players in the Indian leagues. And I
Yeah,
think every player who's an Indian outside of India would be at a high level, would be dreaming of maybe playing for their country. That
yeah.
is the
Hmm.
highest high that you can go to, or going back to their home country and playing. So opening that opportunity for these players, and there are a lot of these players, a lot that I know as well. I'm sure many, many more, who I think would benefit in their personal career, and Indian football would also benefit from having them come into Indian football.
Yeah, and recently after the AFC Asian Cup loss of India, they were knocked out in the group stage. Our
Yes.
head coach Igor Stimastu mentioned that India should allow OCI and PIO players in the
Mhm.
team because that will give a different kind of experience and exposure to the players who stay in India. So
Exactly.
hmm. So now talking about the Indian national team, as I said, they didn't do so well in the AFC Asian Cup. So do you feel they need OCI and PIO players?
I think for there's two ways to look at. According to me, I feel for them to do better right now, this very moment. Of course, an inflow of good talent is always going to help any team. So if you have good players who can represent the Indian team playing outside of India with an OCI card, of course it will benefit India. I'm not saying just India, but any team who a good talent comes into will benefit. There's
Yeah.
no downside to it. But I think more importantly, creating a proper structure in Indian football from the grassroots,
Grassroots.
basically.
Yes.
Starting
Hmm.
there is what the future would is what's important for the future. So looking at maybe 7 years down the line, 10 years down the line, if we start creating these players from the age of 12, 13, like they do here in Portugal or in Spain, I think
Hmm.
that is something that really needs to be worked on. And like I said earlier, just playing, I think the most important thing is game time. It improves your relationship with the ball. If someone is playing 3 hours one day versus another player who's playing 6 hours, of
Yeah.
course, a player who's played more, if you accumulate that into like years and years, he will
Yeah.
just automatically become a better player. I think that is
Yeah.
something that's very important.
So this brings us to the big questions type. Now we'll move on to the rapid fire round, which is the last round.
Okay.
And here you have to just answer the question in one word, or you can elaborate. That's on you.
Okay.
So let's move. Yeah.
All right. Let's go.
So the first one is favorite football memory from your time playing in Portugal,
When we won the district league in my second year over here.
and one word to describe your playing style on the field.
Composed.
And what's your playing style? Which position do you play? You mentioned 8 and 10.
I play right back. Now I play right back.
Sure. And favorite footballer growing up and why?
I'd say Bastian Schweinsteiger, the German footballer.
Yeah.
Really liked his style of play.
Best pre-match ritual or superstition you have?
I have a certain way of putting my boots and socks on, so that's something that I follow even today.
And favorite hobby or activity outside of football?
Outside of football, I would say playing paddle. It's a sport in Portugal similar to tennis.
Uh, and if you could play for any football club in the world, which would it be?
Any football club in the world, I would have to say Manchester City, looking at the way they're performing right now.
Yeah, exactly. Then favorite food to eat before a match for energy?
Before the match, I like to keep it very light, just some rice and chicken.
And most memorable goal you have scored in your career?
Most memorable goal, uh, that's a tough one. Um, I think it was actually this season in December when I scored a goal. It's just memorable because I had a lot of my friends and family watching that game.
Uh, and any preferred music genre or artist to listen to before any game?
I have my set playlist that I stick with every time. It's a mix of everything here and there, just what makes me get ready for the game.
And considering you played for four different clubs, four to
Mhm.
five different clubs you played in India. So any particular coach that you feel was the best for you, and any of his lessons that you still remember and try to give it to others?
I think every coach has given me something that I've learned and grown from over my time in Portugal. But one coach that I personally feel helped me a lot was my coach when I was 14 or 15 years old in school. He's someone that I'm still connected with, and he's someone who I think I learned the most about football from.
And the last one piece of advice you would give to the younger players who want to make it big in football?
I think it's important to uh, trust the process, take it one step at a time, and just make sure that you have right guidance behind you or around you.
So that brings us to the end of the third episode of Atawaris Speaks Football. We were joined with Aryaman Trehan, and hope everyone liked this session. And Aryaman, especially, how did you like this interview?
It was great. I think it's always great to be able to share with people who are in a similar journey or similar path as you, and especially be able to help in this case through Aperio. So I hope we can reach out to players through this interview and see what we can possibly do for them in the future. And it was great speaking with you, and I think it is great for someone to be doing something like this in Indian football as well.
Thank you, and same to you too for helping out footballers to get the international exposure.
Mhm.
Um, that is with us. It will be the end.